Hello, my name is Brett Uplager. This is Project 2 for Location Analytics at MTSU. This is not going to be used in an emergency. This is just an educational assignment. The topic of this PowerPoint and this project is Paris, Tennessee. And in this, I tried to show the tornadoes in Paris, Tennessee, and the relation to emergency services, roads, and the population. In this slide, I primarily focused on getting the state of Tennessee into my layers and then adding all of the rest of my layers. So right now it's a bit cluttered, and I had added the emergency services, my tornadoes, the city and state boundaries, and then I moved on to my next step. In step 2, I filtered the selection of the counties to specifically zoom in on Paris, Tennessee. The way I achieved this was to zoom to the selection on the Tennessee boundaries layer, and I had to go through the data attributes and then filter through there. In this slide, I changed the style of the roads to an all black so that the user could see it. Next, I want to talk about the roads that I used. I primarily focused on using the primary and secondary roads so that the emergency services could successfully get to any of the population in a rural county, since if it's in a storm, it's going to affect the conditions of the roads on side roads, and I thought it was more important to focus on how easily accessible these people could get to an emergency service and emergency service get to them. In my last slide, I showed the tornadoes in a hot pink dashed line and my hail in a light blue. With these, we can move on to talk about my questions, assumptions, and my overall thoughts. Paris, Tennessee is above average in Tennessee for its tornadoes. Paris has slightly over 10,000 residents. The area is known for the world's biggest fish fry. And despite that there are many differences between Paris and France and Paris and Tennessee, they at least both have the Eiffel Tower. As you can see, the one on the right is the one in Paris and the one on the left is the one in Tennessee. But we wanted to talk about my questions, and the first questions that I had were about the likeliness of which type of disaster in Paris, Tennessee, based on historical data. And in Paris, the chances to have a flood were substantially low in comparison to the above average amount of tornadoes. And that is why the main focus of my map was on tornadoes. In the next section, I wanted to focus on hospitals and fire stations because if there is a disaster, those two are going to be very busy cleaning up the aftermath. And the proximity to the rural areas I did not think were very good, considering the primary and secondary roads would be hard to access to many other parts of the county. The hail and tornadoes do have correlating data because tornadoes usually are in a big storm where two different, a cold front and a warm front hit each other, and that usually ends up being hail. And tornadoes are more likely in Paris, Tennessee versus the average rate in Tennessee. In Paris, tornadoes are above average according to the recent map. As you can see, the number of tornadoes passed through the county. In a study by USA.com, the number of tornadoes that historically hit Paris are significantly higher than the rest of Tennessee. According to the site, 208 tornadoes have occurred in Paris since 1950 to 2010, whereas the average is 175 across the state. Thank you.